The owner of this downtown Toronto coffee shop is bracing for the worst.
Struggling to pay rent down here anyway, now I can't. Within a few months from now, I will be closed.
Ontario's minimum wage hike will have to come out of customers' pockets. Prices here are going up 22%.
We've had 2 customers already leave and say Tim Hortons hasn't raised their rates. So we're losing business because of this.
Tim Hortons franchisees are contractually forbidden from raising prices, but some are taking other controversial actions. CBC News has now learned several cut paid breaks and clawed back contributions toward employee benefits. We agreed to disguise this employee's voice.
There's not much we can do about it. We risk losing our job, and they're not that easy to get.
On Twitter, boycott Tim Hortons is trending, the reputation of the iconic Canadian brand seemingly at risk. In a statement to CBC, Tim Hortons said, "It saddens all of us to see that jeopardized by the actions of a reckless few." But it offered no suggestions as to how store owners can make up the difference. Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne and her government are standing behind the new $14 minimum wage.
She will not be swayed by business owners, some of whom are very wealthy, to back away from her passion of caring for those that are less fortunate. I expect the same from Ontario business leaders, most of whom I know get it.
This small coffee shop is raising wages even higher than the province is requiring, to $14.75.
I don't understand why a large business such as Tim Hortons wouldn't be able to do the same for their workers.
The cost? Prices for customers are going up 10%, or about a quarter on a cup of coffee.
I don't mind. It doesn't bother me at all.
I appreciate the service, and I think everyone has to make a living.
A careful balance that other Ontario businesses will also have to find. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
As we've seen, Tim Hortons is a lightning rod in any discussion of low-paid jobs. We know how much the minimum wage is going up in Ontario and how some franchisees are reacting, but you may be wondering, how much do those franchisees make? Well, for some insight into Tim Hortons, we're joined by Douglas Hunter. You wrote the book Double Double, came out a few years ago, a really fascinating insight into a corporation that so many of us think we know, but we don't really know the details. So let me ask you, how much does a franchisee of an average Tim Hortons make?
Well, an ideal franchise, say it makes about $2 million a year in Canada. That would be a nice target for a standard operating store. The targets that franchisees would work towards, and this is within the last couple of years, would be to try to make about 13% on the gross income before tax, and then pay themselves a manager, because they're on site running the thing. As a manager, they would pay themselves maybe another 4%. So you're looking at something in the $300,000-$400,000 pre-tax. And what I try to tell people too, not to apologize for the franchisees, but in addition to paying taxes on that, they also have to be prepared to reinvest in the franchise over, say, the 10-year period of the franchise that they have. They may
hard, as you know from the research you did in your book, but still $300,000 to $400,000. You know there are a lot of people in Canada who look at that and say, so franchisees are complaining about a small, depending on your perspective, increase in the minimum wage?
Hortons is a real top quality, but also top-down system. You know, they provide you the food. They don't just provide you guidance on what kind of food, where you buy it. It's like, no, we make the donuts for you. It's our brand of coffee. The machinery comes from us. There's a playbook. There's a system, and that's why you're attracted to it as a franchisee. But to make the system work and execute, you don't have a whole lot you control the costs on. And what you do have control over is basically wages, which is, other than that, it's wastage. It's like, how many serviettes do you go through, and how much food do you waste by making too much on a particular day? So, you know, the wage element is a very significant part of how they manage making their profitability.
We have just when you look at this controversy in the last 48 hours or so with Tim Hortons and the minimum wage, what do you think this is doing to the brand?
Well, it's the main concern for people that have some investment in the brand, which is both the franchisees and the franchisor, because the customers have a relationship with the company that's not only the cup they hold in their hand, but it's the people they're looking at across the counter or through the drive-through window. And if they start to feel uncomfortable about what role they're playing in, if they start to feel exploitive, that, you know, I'm in here and I'm buying for this company, but this poor person is not being paid or treated the way I felt. I don't really comfortable in this situation anymore. And I think I'm going to try to get this coffee over at McDonald's or somewhere else. And that's where the brand value reputation starts to deteriorate.
Well, I read your book when it came out. It's fascinating. I recommend it to others. And thank you very much for speaking with us.
Well, thanks for having me in.
One final note on jobs. The Canadian economy has started 2018 on a high, with the national jobless rate hitting a 4-decade low. It now stands at 5.7%. That is the lowest rate since 1976. It fell 0.2 of a percentage point in December alone, thanks to the creation of almost 80,000 jobs, a number that defied most analysts' expectations.